Hi there, thank you for joining me to chat about this latest episode of Gold Rush. We're on season 14, episode 6. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and subscribe and let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can also hit the thumbs up button, whatever works for you. So this episode starts out with Parker talking about his money troubles. We see where Mitch is at Dominion, and he says that if a wash plant's not running, they're not making money. So far, that is not happening. Parker wants Tyson at Unforgiven to get him some gold by the end of the week. And so they plan to have this huge wash plant called the Lucifer to be moved over to the Unforgiven claim so they can get some work done over there. So he has a friend, Mike Tupper, who is an expert truck driver. I guess they mean to imply or convey that he has a lot of experience moving heavy equipment like this one. So he's going to help them get that moved over there. So due to the size of it, they can't load it directly onto the lowboy that they're using. So they have to put it on sideways, and they hope that it will balance properly for the transport, and they're able to get it there in one piece. So the narrator tells us that the route is very steep and it has a lot of corners, so they have to be very careful in this transportation route that they have to take, which is about 5 miles. So Mike is a little bit nervous, although I don't know why, because he's an expert guy. And he says that this is the most expensive stuff that he has ever moved. So as they get the convoy going, they come across a creek, and it looks like it had swelled a bit since they last came across it. And so they're like, oh boy, we hope things doesn't fall apart here with getting the equipment across because of how it's set up for the transport. So it's a little precarious, but they were able to make it across. They got it to the site. And then they're hoping then the next day they can reassemble it and then get it up and running so they can start sluicing shortly and be able to meet their deadline. So later we see where they're setting up the wash plant at Unforgiven, where they drop the equipment. They have to move it up to the wash plant pad, and the narrator tells us that it's a 45-foot pad and it needs to be connected to the hopper and the feeder before they can get it running. It's a little bit steep to get up to the wash plant pad. We're being told that it's about a 25-degree incline to get up there. And so now that it's assembled, once they get it assembled, they have to transport it up to the wash pad. And then once they do that, they have to rotate it 90 degrees to get it lined up to whatever they need to hook it up to. So we see where that's being done. And so that's accomplished in this episode. And finally, when everything is set in place, we see where Tyson goes to power everything up. And so he's like, oh, I have controls, but I have power, but no controls. So he can't work anything. And so he calls Alec or somebody to come look at it. And it turns out that something wasn't turned on. So it wasn't really an issue with the equipment, more like operator error. So they got everything up and running. And so they have it set for a maximum capacity. And so they're ready to go. So we see where they have their first scoop going in. They're excited. We're being told that it's about 7 weeks into the season, and this is the latest they've ever gotten started in their season before ever producing any gold. And so as the episode progressed towards the end, we find out that within 2 days of running the wash plant that Parker has found gold. We see where they gather around to figure out how much gold they have. The crew is there and they're going to weigh the gold. So what they have found from their first 2 days of running the wash plant is 116 ounces of gold. And then we see where the other gentleman, I don't remember his name, where he had gone through the tailings from previously that were there. And he had found 9 ounces of gold. So together they have 125 ounces total. And we're told that this is worth about $250,000. So anyway, in light of being able to get this first bit of gold in, Parker seems a bit reserved. He looks still pretty worried. And he says that it's good to see some gold, but they really need a whole lot more of it. So for Rick's storyline, we see where he's having a little chat saying that, he's working on his goals, but some days are okay and some days are miserable. So he says that he deliberately started out with a skeleton crew and to be able to work up from there, I guess in line with, what his expectations are or what he's expecting to encounter as the season starts. So we're told again that he's still working on the stockpile that's there, but they're going to need bigger equipment to be able to move into the cut. So for now, that's what they're doing. Rick takes off and leaves Buzz and Lauren in charge to keep things going. So he's off to go either borrow or lease some equipment to that end. And we see where he's headed to meet Tony. So he's meeting with Tony and Minnie. They have a little chit chat before he mentions that he needs gear. And I'm sure Tony knows, like, he's here for something. What does this man need? Why is he over here? So he says he's looking for 202 rock trucks to lease. Minnie says they'll have to see what they can do. And Tony says that he's been gone for a year. So basically you get what you get. I'm like, you've been gone. So this is the mess that you get to inherit. So he says, they have to look and take consideration for their operation first before they can decide if they can help him out and that they would get back to him. So after he leaves, we see where Tony and Minnie are like, well, Rick looks good. It's like, okay, what were they expecting, It's the little things that older folks like to say, which I thought was funny. So later on, we see where Rick was able to procure the 2 700s that he was after and the 2 rock trucks. So I guess Tony was able to get him that gear after all. And so he has Derek Mamek to deliver the equipment. So the equipment shows that they were able to, with the equipment that they have now, they're able to ramp up production significantly. And we're reminded again of his 20 ounce a week goal from the stockpile pay. Anyway, we have this guy here named Travis. I think that was his name. Travis Kinnikin. And he's the camp cook. I didn't know there was a camp cook. Where did this guy come from? Did I miss something? Anyway, so him and Buzz are supposed to be fixing the roads that leads up to the mine because apparently they're saying that the 700 chewed up the road, so we have one that's dumping gravel and then one that's coming behind to level out the road. So we're told that Travis is in Rick's old haul truck, and so we see where he gets stuck on the road as he's working on filling up those holes. So all of a sudden we hear this tussle, and it's like a bunch of expletives and in and out. And we're like, oh my God, what the heck's going on? I'm starting to be like, oh, shh, what's happening? And so we see where he gets stuck on the side of the road, like his truck is halfway into a ravine, and he's like, oh my God, what's going on? So he reports to Rick that the shoulder of the road was soft, so the shoulder fell away from him. And then the narrator is telling us it's a 30-foot drop, and they kind of show where, if the vehicle doesn't get pulled out, how far down it's going to drop. So it's just convenient for them how this happens right after they get that 700, because this is what they had to use to pull that truck out from the ravine. So we have where they're going to use the excavator to hold it up. And then the guy, Travis, is going to pretty much be at the wheel to drive it back onto the road once they have it lifted up out of the ravine. So anyway, we see where Buzz tells him to stay the F off the shoulder. I was like, you think? What is going on? But anyway, like, the road is only so big, so I don't know how he could really avoid the shoulder that much with it being a tiny road. But I thought it was funny when Buzz said that. Later on in the episode, we see where Rick mentions that he wants to expand his crew, and then he's looking through resumes. And he was reading some of the things in the resumes, and he was like, I don't even know what this dude is talking about. He's saying things are not really looking good so far. And so I was thinking, well, maybe him and Fred need to get together, because we'll find out later on in the episode that, Fred popped up. So anyway, after 2 days of running with the heavy equipment, we see everybody meets up for an update as usual to weigh the goal that they've mined for the week. We get a reminder of the 20-ounce goal again. This week, once they've weighed, they've brought in 18.39 ounces, and we're being told that it's about $37,000 I guess that's the equivalent. So it's not quite their goal for the week, similar to last week, and we're told that so far they have gotten in 95.93 ounces for the season, with his goal again of 1,000 ounces for the season. We also see where Fred Lewis and Kara, is that her wife's name, Kara, pops on the scene. But what's this guy doing here? Because he wasn't in the trailer was he in the trailer for this season? At least not in the thumbnail for this season, I didn't see him. But anyway, we see where he and his wife are saying that they're looking to keep their operation going, but we don't really see any operation as far as what's being filmed. So they go on to give us a little history on him or them. He was a former Green Beret, and he used to work with Parker before venturing out on his own. He started his own operation with some fellow veterans. Last season, however, they said that was filled with ups and downs. We see at one point where his entire claim was frozen over. There were equipment issues. But I'm like, okay, why would his claim being frozen over would be an issue? Don't they mine in the off season, like in the spring to summer? I don't understand what he was doing then for his claim to be frozen over to create this issue. But maybe you guys can enlighten me on this. I don't understand. Why would he be trying to mine when the claim is frozen over? I don't get it. He says that he doesn't see a high probability of finding good gold. So Fred says he was going to go look at a lead in the El Dorado area. And we get a little bit of history on the area where prospectors have found huge gold nuggets back in the day. And we're told that approximately 6 million ounces of gold have been mined in that area since. So Fred and his wife go to meet Peter Tallman. And he is the owner of the Klondike Gold Corp, who has had his company for 45 years. He is a geologist and a claim owner. And he mentions to them that he has a 10-year permit with potential to bring in about 500 plus ounces a year for a good bit. Not sure how long a good bit is, but this is what he's telling them. So he says that he has about 320 acres of untouched land and that there's only room for one rock truck at a time. And he also mentions to them that somebody found 500 plus ounces in 500 hours in the mined area. But that's not where they're going to look at. They're going to look at another section that's unmined and should have similar potential as to the area that he was talking about. So he says that it is good because they wouldn't really need heavy equipment, and because Fred says he's looking to do a smaller operation, it seems like this would be suited for him. So he shows him the drill maps. He said he has the drill maps for the unmined areas that he can show him. They mentioned that it's a slot canyon averaging 30 to 40 feet in depth, with some areas being as deep as 60 feet. So he tells them that he's estimating that if they were to work, that they would probably hit gold maybe in the next year. And Fred is mentioning that they need gold in the next 2 months, so he decided that this area or this potential wouldn't really work for him. So why exactly would he be wasting this man's time? Because if he's specifically seeking land at a certain depth or where gold has, he just has to go down so far to find the gold, why wouldn't he have led with that and asked, how far down the gold is based on the drill maps that they have, instead of going and looking at the area, wasting this man's time only to say, oh, well, that's too deep for us. That's not going to work. It just seems a nonsensical scene to me and a waste of time. But let me know what you guys think on that. So we see where Fred and his wife says that they feel like they've been running into a lot of obstacles and they're running out of time. So they agree that they're going to go talk to Parker. They said they're hoping that they'll get some good advice from him. So we see where they make it to Parker's place, and Fred tells him about that they're prospecting right now and they're not having a lot of good luck, but he doesn't want to give up. So Parker says, well, I don't know if you're asking about land, but we're not looking to lease anything right now. So after he tells him all his woes, this is what Parker, I guess, is picking up from what he's saying, that he's like, in a roundabout way asking to lease land or something. So anyway, he pivots and says, well, we're just looking for advice. So Parker says, well, I don't think, you need to pursue it if you can't find affordable ground. If you're having all these issues, then it might not make sense for you to do. So he says he needed Parker to tell him. No, I was thinking to myself in the scene, like, why would he need Parker to tell him this? Like, wouldn't it make sense as a business person that if, you can't find affordable raw materials, that maybe this is not a business model that's going to work for you? But anyway, this is what he heard from Parker, and I guess this is the advice that he wanted. Makes no sense, but okay, if he felt like he needed Parker's blessing to say, give it up, dude, I guess that's what he wanted. So he went on to say that he might hit him up to drive one of his dump trucks. So just in that, I guess preemptively asking for employment, I guess. I don't know what's happening in 3 weeks, but he's saying in around 3 weeks. Parker tells him that he already has a good sized crew already, so that won't really work out. So in the end, Parker says there's really nothing that he could do for them, but he wishes them well. And he says, he really feels bad for the guy and all that good jazz. And he started with saying, that as they were talking, I noticed that he started with saying that, oh yeah, you got me into this. And then, in the end, like towards the end of the conversation with Parker, he mentions, yeah, you got me into this. And, he was saying something about him getting him into this again. And I was just like, why does he keep bringing up the fact that Parker got him into this as if Parker made him get into mining? But anyway, I feel like it was like something to get sympathy from Parker from him bringing it up. But that didn't seem to work at all, because Parker was like, well, this happens. It's tough. The mining business is tough. So yeah, nothing I can do for you. Anyway, after leaving Parker's place, we see where him and his wife are in the car. They're rolling down the street. And so they're reflecting on everything that they've been through. I guess this is supposed to be what they're doing. They're driving away, and Fred says that it's the first time he feels like he's being forced to give up on something. And Kara said, look at what you've accomplished. And she mentions that the goal was never to get rich off of gold. And I was like, well, this is different. Who goes into mining to not get rich? That's the whole purpose of going into mining. So I was like, this is the first time I'm hearing this. So she goes on to say that they wanted to mine for a sense of purpose and a new mission. And I was like, what? What does this even mean? What is the mission? What are they talking about? Isn't the mission of getting into mining to bring a mineral out of the earth and sell it and make buku bucks? I don't get it. But maybe you guys know more better than me. Like, what mission are they talking about? Because I didn't get it. Maybe that went over my head. But anyway, in the end, Fred says they're down but not out. Which, okay, didn't he just say that they were going to be given up on mining? But then it seems like they're not. I was like, what is going on? You have no claim. You supposedly have no money. So I don't know what this is. What's going on? Is he supposed to be then going to work for Rick? Because Rick has an opening or looking to expand his operation. So is that what he's going to do? Go work there for a bit until he figures out his footing? I don't know why this guy is here. Why is he here? Because the show is supposed to be, people actively mining, and he's not. I mean, I understand that if he had an operation and they were showing, his hardships and how he got here, that would make sense in the show. But he's not. Why is he here? I'm confused. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Another thing is I was just a little bit annoyed. I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed by the narrator constantly talking about, Rick has been gone for a year, blah, blah, blah. Parker has bought Dominion and he's trying not to go broke, blah, blah, blah. I just don't believe that he would just drop $15 million and just be drilling in random spots that are going to take forever to bring out gold when he needs money right away. And especially when he would have had drill maps to validate the claims on the land, which would tell him like the approximate depth of gold in certain areas. Why go for deeper depth when you need money right now? It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, I will pretend that I believe what they're trying to sell me in saying that. And I believe those were the main points of the episode. But let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe.